She met her soulmate in a past life.
Welcome to Soul Guide with Vondie Lozano, a show about past lives, life between lives, and this life.
Hey everybody, I'm Vondie, and I'm really happy that you're here today. I'm so excited. We have my very good friend Lauren here with us. Some of you may have seen her video on my website. We have a whole blog post about her. We'll put that in the comments. And then also it's the trailer on the front page of my website. So let me go ahead and bring her in. Hi, Lauren. How are you? Oh, wait, you're muted. I muted you. That was me. Hi, Lauren. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? I'm excited to be here.
I'm very excited to have you too. So I was just going to look up at some of my questions. I always like to start with finding out, I know some of this, but actually some of it I might not know. But so people can get to know you as a person, a little bit about your background. So where are you from? Where did you grow up? A little maybe about your family growing up.
I'm from the Midwest. I grew up outside of Chicago, and I'm the oldest child. I have a younger brother and a younger sister. And I grew up with parents who were in the same home until I was about 16, and then they separated.
Okay. And family is going to be a big theme in your sessions. That's why I especially wanted to find out a little bit about the family you had growing up. And then what about the family that you have now?
So now I am married. I have two daughters. They're both elementary school age children. And it's just us. And we have a dog who may make an appearance today. He's always underfoot.
Okay. And what's his name?
Oliver.
Oliver. Okay. Okay, great. At first I thought you said you have a duck. And I was like, you got a duck? A dog. Okay. And then do you want to say anything about what you do for a living? Because I think it's also kind of related to some of what we're going to see in your session.
Yeah, so I'm a social worker and I work with children and families. Specifically, I'm a perinatal mental health specialist and an infant mental health specialist. So it's really in the early times of becoming a mother and kind of figuring out how do we parent these young children who we may have waited a long time to bring into the world.
Yeah, a lot about mothering. And I always use you as the model of like the best mom I know, not to embarrass you, but in my other career as a therapist. And so, yeah, you're just amazing mom.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And it was so fun because that was kind of the main theme of your session of what got validated. So, and for those of you who are watching, Lauren and I both watched her session separately, but we both watched it last night just to kind of refresh our memory because we filmed it a few years ago. And yeah, it was pretty amazing. Okay, so speaking of, actually, I did have one more question before we watch the video. We're going to show the video clip from your session. But what drew you to even have a past life session in the first place? And you could tell the truth.
Okay. Well, I mean, I was definitely interested in what is out there. And you had mentioned that you wanted an opportunity to show it so that people who were interested in what does this look like could have someone who wasn't a client, because we take confidentiality so seriously. And I said, yeah, I'll do it and you can film it and we'll see where it goes.
What a good sport. What a good sport. So thank you. Thank you again. I love your session and I love you. And I appreciate you coming on today to even share about it.
You're welcome. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. Okay. So Leticia, I think this would be a good time to show the trailer.
I have been, since I was a little girl, very, very drawn to the Spanish language.
Are you standing, sitting, lying down, walking, or moving?
It seems like I'm on a surfboard. It feels very much like Polynesia.
What is the year you're experiencing there?
So the first number is 1590, and I'm little. I'm maybe like 4. Mm-hmm. This is so wild. I am like with my dad. It's really powerful. I'm really feeling it. I'm standing and I'm with my son and he's little. He's probably 4. There's this sense that like we've all been safe, and now we're aware of a really big ship. I think they're taking us on the ship. It definitely doesn't feel safe.
What are you realizing about this lifetime?
Just how much love there is.
What did it feel like to die?
It is so clearly my husband. It feels so good.
He's your soulmate.
Wow. Wow.
Wow. How is that for you to see that again?
Yeah, I still feel like it's pretty powerful. Like I just had like a little, tear.
I saw. I wasn't sure if you were going to say anything about that. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I don't know, have you had a chance to see the trailer or have you seen it recently?
No, I hadn't seen that. No.
Oh, so you've never even seen that? I'm sure I sent it, but yeah. So that's what's on the front of my website, your face and then the little trailer. So yeah. And every time I watch it, it's still just so powerful. And my husband, Henry, he's like your husband. He's not super into any of this, though he tries to be supportive. But when he watched the longer version, the 30-minute version of your session when we were filming it and editing and all that, he turned to me and said, that's like really powerful. So even like a non-believer was like, wow, that's some pretty major stuff.
I think even just watching it last night too, it brought up because it's been 4 years since we filmed that. And yeah, it brings up a lot just seeing the trailer, having watched it again last night.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and when we were talking just a little bit last night, there were parts that I kind of sort of forgot, but you didn't even remember at all. So let's kind of go through it. And so when you were watching it, did it jog your memory or did it still feel like, I don't remember this at all?
It definitely feels like a meta situation where I can remember being in it and watching it. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that happened in that succession. But no, until I was watching it again, I didn't have a connection to that part of it.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, that's pretty amazing. And just, I want to let people know, you usually remember what happens because that's everybody's fear that like they kind of go dark and don't remember. Some of it is it's been a while, but it's not like a awake memory. It's kind of a half in between, almost like a fuzzy dream in some ways. So once you kind of like when you lay back down at night, your dream comes back. So once something jogs it, you go, oh yeah. But yeah, there were whole parts we were talking about and you were like, what? So I'm excited to talk about them now. Oh, did you want to say something else?
I'll say it when it comes up because there was a part that I was like, oh, I bet that's going to come up. So
Okay. And if I leave something out, feel free to add it or let me know. Okay. So when you started out, and the other thing too, and I have all these things I want to say at once. So my old website was lovebetweenlives.com. So that's the beginning and the end of that, just so people aren't confused. And you can watch the longer version, the 30-minute version of the full session. The session was longer, but the edited version of the session on the website. And my assistant, Leticia, will put that in the comments. And if you're not watching, but you're listening later on, that'll also be added in the description of the episode. But when you emerged, what do you remember?
Like that day when we filmed?
Yeah. Well, no. When you emerged into the past life.
Oh, right.
What's the first thing that's what we call it. You emerge in the past life. So what's the first thing that you remember?
Well, I will say I did not remember it in this order that I watched it again yesterday, but I remembered kind of being in this physical body that was male, and having an understanding that I had lived a long, long time ago where people didn't really wear clothes, and I was kind of living in a very small village, and that was the community that I lived in.
Yeah. Yeah. And you even got a name. And were you blown away? You were like, I'm getting the year such and such. I'm getting was it blowing you away that the movie just kind of unfolded?
Yeah, it definitely, like, I even remember that there was this kind of moment in my consciousness where I had already looked to the left and I saw there was a boat coming and I was like, making that up. And then you asked something and I said, there's a boat over there. So it is almost like the movie was playing. And I guess I want to clarify that it wasn't like you were planting things. I was seeing them and you were asking what's there. And then I was telling you what I was seeing.
Yeah. Yeah. When you said a really big ship sails into the harbor.
Mhm.
And we'll save that for the end because that's kind of the surprise ending.
Okay.
But and it's funny because the whole life was so peaceful. And then, like I said, kind of a little twist at the end. Okay, so but when you emerged in the very first scene, what do you remember about the surfboard scene?
Yeah, so I was surfing. I was on this huge wooden trunk and I was like surfing through a barrel effortlessly and easily without it's not what surfing looks like for me in real life.
And I don't remember you saying you're surfing through a barrel. I pictured you like on top, but I remember you were way out there.
No,
Like
I was
way
in
out.
the wave. Yeah. I mean, it wasn't like necessarily a barrel, but it was like there was definitely water behind me.
Wow. Okay. See, I didn't even get that. That's where it's fun because you remember more than I got when we were talking.
The visuals there. Yeah. Like I can see the movie.
Yeah. And how old were you? Do you remember?
I don't know. I mean, in my own kind of processing over these 4 years, I would say that I thought I was like an adolescent or I was a young adult, but I think in the telling, I said I was around mid-30s.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it felt like an adolescent spirit, like I was a young person.
And you said you were tanned and muscular.
Mm-hmm.
And do you remember the name?
Yes, Pak Tu.
Pak Tu. You were like Pak Tu.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, it was that.
And then the next questions were, where do you live? What do you eat? How do you bathe? What do you remember about any of those?
Yeah, so I don't have a memory of that apart from watching the video.
Really?
Nope. I had not remembered any of that. But essentially, you know, I was in like a shelter that was made of kind of the natural surrounding setting, branches and leaves. And it wasn't a place that I spent a lot of time in apart from sleeping. It was just a little bit of protection, I guess, from nature.
Yeah, like a little thatched hut. I remember.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then I said, what do you do during the day? And you saw the pole with the fish on the sides. I had forgotten that part.
Yeah, I had too. I had not remembered that.
And then what are you eating? Do you remember?
Yeah. So I was eating white fish that was cooked.
That was awesome. By the
That
way.
was really good. And so that's what I wanted to mention was that if my husband were here right now, I would say, what do you know, if we're going to go out to dinner, he says, well, it doesn't matter where we go because you're always going to get a piece of white fish.
Oh, that's crazy.
And he's right. That's generally what I order in restaurants. So
wow. Yeah.
Interesting.
Wow. I just remember you saying it's white fish and it's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you even had something to drink.
Yes, I had forgotten that. So there was a little coconut and I was drinking literally out of the coconut.
Yeah, half. You said like a half shell of coconut water, and I had forgotten that part too. And then where did you bathe if you wanted to clean off?
Yeah, so I also had forgotten that, but I had walked down to this little, I guess, like protected cove in the, I guess, before the open water started in the island. And so I was able to bathe there. Yeah. And it was fresh water. It was a fresh
I
water.
think you said it was like a little waterfall, like 4 hoses.
Oh, yeah. You know, I heard that last night, but I must have missed. I remember like there was a blip where I was like, what did that mean? Yeah.
Yeah, a little waterfall.
Mm-hmm.
And then I said, are there other people around? Or are you alone? And that was when there was the little village scene, kind of. Do you remember
Yeah.
much of that?
I don't remember that. I mean, I just know from what I listened to yesterday, but yeah, that's, there was like a small community that was living together.
Yeah, and older people, and you said little people, which were children, and torches. And then you said they were sitting on hot rocks. And at the time, I didn't want to interrupt your session and say, what are hot rocks? But do you want to say what hot rocks are?
I think they were just like what I see in my mind is like what they put on you when you do a massage, and they put those, but they were huge. They were, so they must have been somehow warmed by the fire. And so we were sitting on them and I guess staying warm.
And did you know what that was before? Because you said it like that was something everybody knew. And I didn't know if it was something you knew from.
I still don't know if it, I mean, I've never seen it. It's just, yeah, I've never seen it before.
Okay. And you know what I'm noticing? That we have some comments. So I just want to check over here. Hi, Vondie. Hi, Lauren. I'm happy to be here. Oh, David Ortiz says, thank you for sharing your amazing life as Pak Tu.
You're welcome.
Thank you, David. Thank you for being here. Okay. And then we usually go to like a childhood memory. And that was a little bit in the trailer we just saw where you were 4. And do you remember much, or do you want to share anything from that scene?
So I wouldn't have remembered that had I not watched the video. But it was a moment where I was, this little boy, and I was kind of being taught. I don't remember what I was being taught, but I was being taught how to do something.
To make a tool. I think you were like sharpening something.
Oh, yes, I was. Yeah. Oh, yes. And then that became what happened later, I think. I think that connected to the next memory.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I was being taught how to make a tool. And it was my dad who was teaching me. And it was something that like I really had to be paying attention. It was really important that I was kind of mastering this skill.
Yeah, that he was trusting you with this knowledge. And it was emotional. That was the first time, I think, where you kind of choked up in the session.
Yeah, I think it was just this kind of transfer of knowledge.
And so then the next one was, and it is kind of related, a significant moment. And this was a rite of passage that I had forgotten about until we watched the video.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. Yeah. So that was a moment where, and that, even just, it's like when you get transported back. When I was watching the video, I was like, oh yeah, like I hadn't thought about it. I hadn't remembered that piece, but I could see the movie again. So I could see, oh, this is what happened. And I guess I was hunting some kind of javelina or large boar. And I had to bring it back to the village. And my fear in the memory was that I had kind of achieved it too fast.
Mm-hmm.
And that was going to make it look like it hadn't been really me, that I hadn't actually attained this kind of achievement.
Except when you got back, how was it received?
Right. And when I got back, I was welcomed and everyone was proud of me. And we celebrated this kind of rite of passage that I had drug this thing back.
Yeah. And now there was a moment with your mom.
Oh, yes. At that same moment where I think my mom was just really proud of me.
Yeah. I think she was crying, actually, and you were crying. And there was even a sister, we found out, a 3-year-old little sister, which I had completely forgotten about.
Yeah, that there was a little sister. Yeah.
And she was excited for you too.
Yeah, I forgot. I think it actually, she like took my hands, she took my face in her hands and like, oh, see, I have feelings as I'm feeling.
I know.
That was like beautiful memory.
I know. That's why I kind of told you, don't be surprised that when we reprocess it. So what was the memory that touched you, the 3-year-old sister taking your face in her hands?
Oh, was it the sister? I thought it was my mom.
No, it was. I thought it was the mom. Okay.
I think it was just my mom. Just like this, like here was this major accomplishment and she was really proud of me.
Yeah. Yeah. And I remember her taking your face in her hands. And then the next moment was, who was the most important person or people in that life? And then you were with your little family. Do you want to say anything that you remember from that, or remember from watching the video and it triggering your memories?
There were kids, and I had a like kind of a partner, but I also had forgotten this part that I guess we didn't use the word wife. So there was this, kind of like special person, but she wasn't my wife. But the way we function in society, she was my wife now.
Yeah.
And I had 2 boys and a girl, I believe. I could be wrong about that.
Yeah.
But.
Yeah. And the middle son was important. He was
Oh,
special.
he was the
He's the one who's in the next scene where I said, or maybe we skipped this one, where I said moving to a happier, proud scene, and you were at a sunrise holding his hand. And he was 4. So it had kind of come full circle.
Oh, yeah. 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 So, yeah, there was this connection to him.
Mhm. And do you remember anything about that? And like I said, I watched your session. Oh my gosh, Shannon and I so many times editing it. We had a transcript for it. I've seen it on my website forever. So I know it's more in my consciousness than yours. But was there anything that you remembered about that sunrise scene with him? To me, it just felt so wild that you had a childhood scene at 4, and then now you're with your son and he's 4.
Yeah. I don't remember anything more except just like loving being together. I think we were holding hands.
I think you were holding his hand. Okay. And then kind of the surprise ending. Up till now in this session, I was thinking, oh, this was beautiful, but it was so quiet. It was so like such a idyllic little peaceful life. And usually there's more kind of challenges in the lifetime. So I remember thinking, gosh, what a beautiful, easy, simple life. And then I said, moving to a major important event or a turning point. And do you want to share what happens then?
Yeah. So this kind of huge colonial ship showed up at our special island that was totally not inhabited by anyone but our village, or at least if it was, we didn't go past a certain area to know that.
And it was Polynesia, you had said, which I
somewhere in that area. I felt, I don't know, somewhere in that kind of Micronesia, Polynesia area, and Tahiti maybe.
And 1590, if we haven't already said that.
Yeah. I don't know what a historical scholar would say about this, but this ship showed up, and we jumped around a little bit in the session, so it wasn't like this, I don't know how much time passed, but this ship showed up, and there was this sense of dread, and we didn't speak each other's language. And then myself and I think all of the men from the village were taken, and we
said like 25 men, and these are soldiers that show up. Yeah.
I guess they were soldiers. Yeah. They looked like, they looked very much like what I would think like a, I don't want to say like a Spanish colonial soldier. Like they had spears.
Yeah. And the Spanish is important because that was how we started the session.
Yeah. I had come up with this like, oh, are there any questions? And I was like, no, I'm just excited. And then I thought, oh, I've always had this connection to the Spanish language. I wonder. Although I never heard Spanish spoken.
Yeah, you said that.
And, but they looked like, at least in not necessarily the faces, but the outfits. And anyway, yeah, they took us, I don't know if we were going to be sold as slaves or what was going to happen, but they definitely separated us and took us. And I felt really responsible that I had like let my whole village down. In some way, there was some understanding, or at least thought in my own mind, that I should have been able to keep us safe. And I wasn't.
Yeah. That at this point you're older and you had become some sort of elder. And I remember you saying, well, I remember because we watched it last night. I watched it. We're not prisoners, but I can't leave.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So you were captured. And I was going to ask my sense was you were going to be sold as slaves, but we didn't get that far because I said, well, in fact, let me look if there was anything else about that I wanted to ask you. Big ship sails into the harbor. There's a feeling that we've been safe and we're not safe anymore. Yeah. And so then I said, moving to the time where you get to the destination, because I wanted to see what happened to you. And you said, I don't think I get there.
Yeah, I didn't leave the ship.
You died on the ship.
I died on the ship. I died at the bow. And I think there was this, they obviously allowed that. They let me have this death, as opposed to, I was alone. So I wasn't with the rest of the men. So I got to have this kind of like, I don't know, it felt like a respectful death, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that they perceived you? Did you operate as a leader even on the ship?
I don't know.
Of the men?
Yeah, I don't know.
Do you have a sense of how long you were on the ship? Because by the time you died, you said you had long white hair, long white beard. I didn't know if it was like years on the ship.
I don't know. I'd love to go back and
maybe we'll have to do that.
Visit that, because I don't get a sense of how long I was there. I will say though that the death itself felt extremely shamanic, and I have practiced shamanism for over 10 years at this point. And so I had also not really connected with that until watching the video last night. And I thought, oh, wow, this is like really aligned with the way that I see the end of life through a shamanic lens.
And what exactly does that mean?
Well, in the session, I kind of like became a bubble of water. Mm-hmm. And I joined into the water and I just became the water. And I think in shamanic, maybe the best word to say is a meditation, but in shamanism, we call them journeys, that I have become other parts of nature. Mm-hmm. So become the layer of the atmosphere, or become a cloud, or become water. And I think or at least it feels to me that it's a reminder that we are all
connected. Yeah.
We're all connected and we're all one, and we all kind of cycle through these nature and human forms.
Yeah. Yeah, very much so. And so then, well, actually the last thing I was going to say about when you were on the ship is I remember you saying it's going away from where I live, away from home. And I'm too old to swim back. And that was when there was that sense of like, I can't save my people. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then you crossed over. And for those of you watching and listening, usually at the end of the session, this is the step one of Life Between Lives, is you meet your spirit guide who's been with you since your soul was created. And I've only had twice where somebody didn't meet their spirit guide, where someone else showed up. And in this case, who showed up when you crossed over, Lauren?
It was my husband. He was just hanging out on a bench.
Mm-hmm. And we can be here and there at the same time. So her husband is still very much alive. Mm-hmm. Yeah. He was sitting there, and you said your foreheads were touching. Do you remember this part?
Like, yeah. Well, and our noses. I hadn't remembered it until I watched it last night, but yeah, we were kind of like, our profiles were making this kind of shape of
a heart.
A heart. Yep.
Yeah. And how was it for you when you saw him? And do you remember what he said when I said, "What's your relationship to this soul?"
I don't remember.
Oh, no, I remember because it was amazing. Is he said, "I am this soul." Like we're this, and you said, "We're the same. We're the same." And that's the soulmate connection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In fact, you said it wasn't these exact words, but you said like, I'm half and he's the other half. Like we're two halves of a whole.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I forgot. I watched that last night. Yeah.
I know. And again, I've watched it so many times.
Mhm.
Yeah. And then we asked, why were you shown this life and how did it relate to this life? And that's where he started talking about the family.
Yeah. I I think that was probably when I was
You were
heading
getting sleepy?
I don't remember that part.
But
Yeah.
he was just basically saying that you, because this is what you do for a living, and that you show people how to have a family as a mom. And then I know you do mom groups and you actually train people in how to be a good mom. And he was saying that's your gift. You've been doing this for a very long time. And is it okay if I say a little bit about your childhood, your actual family today? Your childhood family?
Mhm.
That your family didn't know how to do that for you, to mother you. And yet you knew how to do that because you've been doing this for a very long time. And that was your gift.
Yeah. I
And
forgot.
that you still do that today. And I know that you do that with not just professionally, but with other families.
Yeah. I think there was something about him, or maybe I interpret it that I was able to seek out those people in this life because that's
Yes, you've had other people, other mentor, mothering people. Yes. Yeah. But I think it's also who you are.
yeah, I do too.
Yeah. And that's what he was saying.
I would not have, if we hadn't done this session, I would never have been able to connect with that. And now it does feel like, yeah, that really is just who I am.
That's your gift. And again, for those of you listening and watching, it's not just who was I? Was I somebody famous, which most of us weren't, but it's finding out how this life is connected to all the lives that we've had in our soul's journey. And then I think that was most. Was there anything else that you wanted to point out from the time when we were connecting with your husband?
I guess I would say it felt so just lovely. It felt just that delicious, warm, you know, amazing connection.
Yeah. And he said, and we just keep getting to do this forever.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I loved afterwards, which most of you won't see in the video because this was Lauren and I talking afterwards. She, when the session was over, she sat up and we were talking a little bit. And you said that when you guys did your wedding vows, do you want to share that part?
Yeah. So, we wrote our own vows, and I remember there was a part in the ceremony. I mean, we knew we weren't going to have the traditional vows, but we talked about the to death do we part, and we laughed about it. And I remember him saying, however we reword this, it's forever. That this is forever. This is not like one of us dies and you get to go on and do this again. this is forever.
This is forever because he is your soulmate.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was trying to see if he's your soulmate. He probably would have been in your last life. And I asked, I thought maybe he was your partner. Her name was Padma, but he wasn't. He was we think he was one of your kids.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, that was definitely a very visceral sensation that I had.
That he was your middle son, the one you were with at the sunrise.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And again, that's what we trust. We trust what comes. If our brain gets in there and we go, wait, it can't be my son, or I can't be male, or I can't be on a surfboard, or whatever. We try. That's the challenge for those of us who are really analytical, to push that aside. And the visceral response the first response is always the right response. And so he said that probably was your soulmate. So he was in her past life. He was her son.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm just going to look and see if there was anything else. Oh, that you did say, yes, you said, I didn't hear them speaking Spanish, but it definitely felt like a colonial boat.
Yeah.
Which was crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So was there anything else that you either remembered from the session or that you got even from listening and watching it again last night? Anything you wanted to add that I or we didn't cover today?
No, I think it was very cool revisiting it after all these years. And I had this kind of reflection this morning of I have only shared this story with 2 of my girlfriends, and we were all together when I did share it. And I'm realizing I missed a whole bunch.
well, because remember, that was the long version. It didn't make it into the
But I mean,
video.
I just verbally told them.
Right. But yeah, that's true. Well, and how much I forgot. I mean, when I watched it last night, it's probably the longest session I've done. It was like 3 hours, and some of it was us talking before and talking after. But yeah, there was a lot there.
It was a lot, and I feel like revisiting it, I think like, oh wow, there were these little crumbs, like the fish I had forgotten about, and immediately when it's whitefish, I was like, oh my gosh, that's really interesting.
Yeah. Well, and I didn't tell you that I was going to mention this, so sorry to spring this on you a little bit, but we are going to be doing your Life Between Lives session. Do you have any thoughts or feelings about that?
Yeah, I'm excited. I want to, I had no expectations going into this one, and it was so wonderful, and I'm excited to see what happens in this next one.
Yeah. And for this one, you can bring questions, 5 or 10 questions that you want to ask the wise beings on the other side, or your guide, or your husband, or anybody.
Right.
So, yeah. So it'll be fun. And for those of you watching and listening, we will be filming it. So stay tuned for more. All right. Well, thank you, Lauren, very much for letting me film, for being my dear friend who was willing to be like, okay, I'll go for it, and let us.
You're very welcome.
Let us share your story.
It was great. It was hopefully mutually beneficial, because I know I got a lot out of it.
Oh my gosh, yes. And mostly it was just a way to show people what it looks like, that you're a regular person. And and let me look and see. I don't see any questions, but just that it's that it's beautiful. It's beautiful and amazing, and it has relevant information for this life. I guess that's the part that people don't always realize. And it was a special treat that your husband joined us in the session. Especially because he's like my husband and not super into any of this. So that was pretty fun.
Yeah. Unexpected.
Very unexpected. All right. Well, thank you again. People are saying thank you for sharing. Thank you for being with us today. To the people who are watching, and Lauren saying thank you. Okay. Well, I'm going to wrap you up, but I have a couple things I want to share with everybody. So let me think how to do this. Okay. Here we go. So just a couple quick announcements. So I'm so excited that you got to meet Lauren. Yes, her husband might be her guide. Someone said that. We weren't sure. We'll find out in her next session, and we will let you know. Henry, that's my husband. Great session. Thank you, honey, for watching. And then we wanted to let you know our 3-day Immortal Soul Journey Retreat in Malibu. Our signups are until Monday, but we extended it till Tuesday because we know some people are still wanting to join us. So we are putting the link in the comments, and we'll put it if you're listening on the podcast. We're podcasting pretty much everywhere right now. And yes, you'll go back to the womb, a little bit of a mini Life Between Lives. You'll do a past life session. It will be group experiences, but my experiences, they work just as beautifully as the individual. So you'll be a group past life session, a back to the womb, and then a little on the other side of why you chose this life, your pre-birth life planning session. So I hope you'll join us. It's going to be in Malibu, November 7th through 9. It is listed in our comments. It'll be listed with the podcast. And next week, join us for our Q&A. And please submit your questions before. And thank you again, Lauren, for being such a good sport, willing to open up and not even knowing where this was going to go. I'm just being willing to jump in and share that with us, and then coming on today. So thank you so much, everybody, for watching. Thank you, Lauren. See you next time.
Thank you for watching. Remember to like, subscribe, and follow. And join us next week for another episode of Soul Guide.